So, hello everyone. Tonight we'll be talking about myofascial release, or as we like to call it, MFR. MFR truly is my passion. It is my treatment modality of choice, and it's something that has made an extreme difference in my life. It has changed my life, and I am so excited to have a special guest with me tonight. Lillian Quandt is a fellow expert myofascial release therapist, and we will be talking about healing with myofascial release, as well as sharing many of our own experiences that we've had through our healing journeys, hoping that it will help some of you through your journeys. So Lil is the founder of Peaceful Hands Massage out of Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. She founded it in 2003. She's practiced many modalities, including Swedish to Reiki and polarity therapy, but she really started diving into and using the John Barnes myofascial release approach 14 years ago. So I'd love to welcome Lil to our talk tonight.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you.
Great. So tonight, as always, Lil and I are going to be having a conversation. I'm going to be asking her questions about myofascial release and her healing. We'll be going back and forth and having a conversation. But as always, we want to be here to answer questions for you guys. So if you have anything that comes up, whether it be questions on myofascial release, healing, health, wellness, pain, whatever it may be, go ahead and just throw those in the comments, and we will be here to answer your questions throughout the evening. So Lil and I met years ago. We've attended many of the same seminars together, and I have had the fortunate opportunity to get treated by Lil many times over the years. And I know that she has been an MFR therapist for the past 14 years. And I'd love to kind of have her explain who some of her typical clients are. So Lil, who are your typical clients?
Well, my typical clients have either have chronic pain, such as chronic pain syndrome, fibromyalgia. Some of them come to me because they don't want to have surgery, so they're trying to look for something to prevent that.
Yeah.
Or they've had surgery and they have pain and it doesn't go away. And I also have clients that are seekers. They're looking for something because they haven't found a modality that works for them. They've tried chiropractors, they've tried acupuncture, they've tried cupping, they've tried deep massage, and they're just trying to find something that helps their body.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the majority of my people.
Okay.
That's what they're looking for, something to help them. And so those are my people.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like we actually see a lot of the same types of clients. You know, unfortunately, chronic pain is prevalent nowadays. And what I have found over the years in my experience is myofascial release is a key treatment approach when we are talking about chronic pain. And I'm going to kind of date myself a little bit here, but I've been a therapist now for 25 years, and I started in more of a traditional setting. And when I found MFR 20 years ago, it really, I really realized pretty quickly that it was one of the most authentic forms of treatment out there. The things I love about it is it doesn't just treat the symptoms. It's going to treat and look at the entire body, ultimately getting at the root cause of the symptoms. But also, we're not just addressing the physicality. So many of our clients, especially our chronic pain clients, have also a mind component to it. So we need to look into the emotional component as well as the limiting belief systems. And so myofascial release really, truly is an all-encompassing form of care. With me, I know that many of my clients who come into the clinic, and this may be the same for you too, Lil, many of these clients have tried everything.
Absolutely.
Kind of like those seekers that you're talking about.
Right.
And many of them have lost hope. They've lost hope that they can get better. And once MFR comes into their lives, I love it when we start to see the hope come back into them.
Right.
When we start to see the results. Do you typically tend to see the same thing or find the same thing with your clients?
I just love, many of them come in with dull eyes, tight shoulders, tight attitudes. They just can't seem to move forward. And
Yeah.
when you start seeing the light come in their eyes and you start seeing them striding better, they're moving better, they're feeling better about their whole life, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It just, and that's why it's such a wonderful modality, because like you say, it's my passion, because I can see the difference and I know I'm doing something for them.
Yeah. And it's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
A lot of these individuals, they don't know where else to go. And yeah, it is amazing when that light comes on in their eyes and you start to see them being able to do the things they haven't done in years. Maybe that is getting on the floor with and play with their grandkids, or maybe it's even just going for a hike or a walk. These things may seem very basic for many of us, but for someone that's been struggling and has had a limited quality of life, to see this life come back into them and see them starting to live again, it is one of the most rewarding and amazing things that we can provide for our clients.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I also love it when, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but many of my clients, when they find out that we continue to do our own healing, they're shocked because they think that as therapists, we're perfect.
Right.
We don't have any issues. We
We do
don't
no
have
wrong.
discomforts. We're perfect. But, in all reality, we have the same exact struggles that majority of our clients have. The difference that we have is we've learned the tools through MFR to help us navigate through these healing journeys. So I would love to talk a little bit more about maybe a pivotal point in your own journey, what you learned from it, what you maybe took away from it, because I think it will help some of our listeners.
Sure. I was taking, I went to MFR2 and what was it? Unwinding seminars in Myrtle Beach. And then directly after that, I went to Pennsylvania to go to a skill enhancement seminar. And that's the skill enhancement seminar is when you're working with advanced therapists. And so you're learning some of the trade that way. You're learning self-help techniques, and you're being involved with working with advanced therapists. So it makes you feel more comfortable about your trade. And you also get worked on.
Yeah.
And I was being treated, and I think it was like the third day I went into a healing crisis. And after that, I had the opportunity to walk away from my pain. I was just able to say, I don't need this anymore. It doesn't serve me. I started to feel more joyful in life, and it was really life-changing. And I changed the story of my past. I didn't have to be a victim anymore. I had the control. I could make my own story.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. You're like, this is easy. And it took me so long to get there. But I think you have to go through the process. Sometimes you have to go through all the pain and the anger and everything to get to that point, to be able to let go. And that's hard for all of us, because we think we have control over the situation, but actually all we're doing is holding on to it and not letting go of it. And once we let go of it, then we have the control.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part for most of my clients.
Yeah.
And it was me too.
Yeah. And that's absolutely beautiful. And, we know what a healing crisis is, and we've been through them. And I actually have changed the term in my clinic. We actually call it a healing adventure.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. So crisis kind of has that negative connotation for a lot of people. So an adventure is something that we're going through. And those healing adventures, they can be so hard to go through in that moment. But because it's bringing up and stirring up a lot of that old past, it's stirring up a lot of those beliefs, those feelings, those emotions, those physical sensations. But
Right.
when we come out on that other side, it's absolutely magical. Just like you had, where you felt peace, you felt more joy in your life. And that's what
Right.
we're all looking for. And so, healing, crisis, or adventure is really an exploration and allowing us to go, it lets us go much deeper. It processes a lot of those old traumas that we've been dealing with. So, can you? It might be helpful if we kind of talk about a little bit what kind of a healing crisis is like for us, or what did you feel going through that? I know I've gone through them, and I'm happy to share my experience as well. But what would you say kind of that experience was like for you?
Well, I actually, while I was being worked on, I actually relived the abuse.
Hmm.
And then I had a lot of emotional tears and feeling the pain. And um, John and three other people were working on me, and um, John said, "Can you just run out of in your mind? Can you just run out of the room and let go of that?"
Hmm.
And that's what I in my head. That's what I did.
Yeah.
So I was able to run out of the room and change that story. Um, and then he said, because my husband was also there, and he said, "We're all going to leave the room, and Herb, I just want you to hold her."
Mm. Beautiful.
And that did amazing things.
Hmm.
And there were just a lot of tears involved, just a lot of emotional upheaval. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you had such a safe and supportive space to allow it to happen. And that I think that's something that's really important to bring into the limelight for individuals is when we are doing these deep healings, um, there can be a lot of emotions that come up, just as
Right.
you had experienced. And we, as MFR therapists, our main role is to create a very safe and supportive environment for you to be able to emote and allow and process through these things that you went through, and then dialogue with you to help you come out that other side. And just as John had done with you, is dialoguing for you, helping you let go of that and helping you move forward.
Right.
I think that that's an important thing to share with individuals. Do you have any comments on that at all?
Um, I tell my people that I'm here for you, whatever happens. This is a safe place. You can whatever you need to do, just do it.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's
Mhm.
about you,
Yeah.
and I'm just here to support you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's
And
really important.
that's what I think is such a beautiful thing about the myofascial work is there can be a lot of tears and a lot of fight and a lot of things like that, but we're always there just to create that support system
Right.
for our clients. And
Yeah.
it allows them a very safe place to be able to let go of something that they've been holding on to for so long that is really just eating them up inside. It's kind of like a volcano ready to burst. And we want them to burst in a really safe environment that is healing for them and not somewhere that is going to be unhealthy for them. So I'm glad that you had that, and it's amazing that you had that experience with your husband. So her husband Herb is also expert level myofascial release therapist. So he was able to be there and support her through that, and that's just I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I my I think my clients, it takes them a while to realize that it is a safe place. Sometimes it takes a couple of times to be with me, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they walk in the room, and you can just feel that they're saying, "Oh, this is okay. I can be what I want to be here.
Yeah.
I don't have to be anybody special and or do anything." And also, they come up. They haven't realized that they have tamped down this emotion. They've
Mhm.
Some of them have even forgotten about it because they don't want to think about it. So it's tamped down, and so when it comes up, they're so totally surprised.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and it's and they just feel like I let go of something I didn't really need. I just feel so relieved.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time that I was actually in the women's health seminar, and I was a partner of someone. And I had been at the seminar before, and it was the first time ever that I allowed my voice to emote. And when I'd been told for years, let the voice out, let the voice out. And I would say, there is no voice. Like I was angry at it. I'm like, stop telling me what to do. Cause I wasn't at that place. I wasn't at that level to feel that yet.
Right.
And so when that voice came out, it was like, it was not me. It was, and even my friend said, was that you? I'm like, oh yeah. Like it was the most authentic and raw emotion that I've ever felt. And so that's what myofascial helps you to be able to do, is really get into those deep spaces that we're holding on to a lot of past feelings. And my pivotal moment for me comes back to my first T for T. So a T for T is when we as therapists get the opportunity to go out to one of John Barnes's clinics and get treated for 3 to 4 hours a day for 5 days. And it's extreme intense healing, but I got to tell you, it's so worth it. And during my treatments, I realized I was the great Houdini. And I was one of those individuals that would skip out and skip past my restrictions and all those areas that I needed to feel into in order to process and heal. It was my way of avoiding what was actually there, but I didn't realize that I was doing it. Well, the therapist that I was with, she kindly nudged me to stay in it and to not skip out. So I got to feel what that was like to be supported, but to allow myself to go into some of those really uncomfortable feelings. And wow, I got to tell you, that experience made me really realize I was missing out on a lot. It
Yes.
taught me how to really stay put, to really start to feel into my body, which is critical with myofascial release and critical with healing. Because if we aren't allowing ourselves to feel, we really aren't going to heal on that deep of a level. We're kind of healing on the surface. We can still get great results, but we're not going to get that true authentic healing.
Right. And you personally have told me, because I'm really good at unwinding, because I'm like, okay, I can avoid that. I'll get rid of that.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get there. And you'd say, okay, let's just stay right there, stay right there. And you've helped me a lot with that. So yeah,
I gently nudged you.
you gently nudged me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lil, when you're working with clients, what are 2 to 3 things that you really do feel that every client should know or understand about their healing journey and myofascial release?
Um, you are in control of your own healing.
Hmm.
You have all the choices. You don't have to go into it at any particular time. It's up to you what you want to do. If
Hmm.
I'm working on you and it feels uncomfortable, or you feel like I'm pressing too hard, or you don't want to go into that emotion right at this time, you can just tell me halt and I will stop, and we can just do what you need to have done for that day.
Yeah.
It's your choice. You have the control. And I think that's really important, because many of these people have not had the control in the past,
Hmm.
and they need it.
Yeah.
They need to be in control of their own emotions.
Yeah. And with that too, I think it's really important to point out that we as therapists, we always start out, especially when we first start meeting someone, we do give you those cue words. We give you that cue word of, if anything is too much or does not feel right, say the word halt. But I found over the years that the strong belief of, I'm going to grin and bear it and I'm going to get through it,
Mm-hmm.
is really powerful for people, and they a lot of times will never use that word.
Yeah.
So I've had to actually help people be able to come into their power, to be able to say halt. And
Right.
when I first said that, because I am also someone that That was one of my patterns as well is, oh, it'll be over soon. And I would leave my body and it'll be over soon. I'll just suck it up and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I used that word for the first time, it was one of the most empowering things that I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage a lot of my clients when it's getting too deep to either push me off or say halt, because that's what they absolutely need.
Right.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the other things that you feel people should understand?
What kind of goals do they want
Mm-hmm.
with the treatment? I mean, what are you looking for today? What do you need today? What do you need from me today? Sometimes they'll say, oh, my shoulder's really killing me. So I start on their shoulder, of course, but we end up finding other places to go that are affecting that shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that gives them control because I'm fulfilling their needs and they need that. And so they really need to have a goal so that they can say, well, gee, this is what I've achieved.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they don't say it in the room at the time, but when they come back, I'll say, well, how was your week or your 2 weeks or whatever? How did you feel? How are you doing? And they'll say, you know what? This is what happened. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I wanted to happen in the session.
Yeah.
It didn't happen there, but it happened later.
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of your individuals, because I know on our paperwork we have, what are your goals?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say 60 to 75% of the time, people leave it blank.
Yeah. I know what my goal is. Yeah.
Yep. Do you find that this is really hard for individuals to know what they need and to be able to set those goals?
Right. I do. And I talk with them and saying, what can we do very simply that you need today? Like, okay, my neck is bothering me. Okay, let's work on your neck. That's a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about, well, this is what I want to experience today. That's a goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, I want to, hike the Himalayas,
Yeah.
and most people think it has to be something really huge. It has to be a huge thing what the goal is, but that's not it.
No.
It can be very, very simple.
Yeah. You can have those big ones, but then you want to break it down into pieces.
Right.
Because only looking at that really big goal, it's daunting. It's overwhelming. And it feels like we have the biggest mountain to climb, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. But
Right.
if we break it down into little pieces, those goals that we achieve, those little goals that we achieve, keep us motivated to keep moving forward. And that's where then those individuals start to get that light in their eyes.
Right.
Because they start to see those changes. But I think it's so critical that everyone do come in with goals, because we need to be working towards something. Otherwise, we're not putting any effort in.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you could talk with my clients and they'll say, I say this a lot. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Because you can't eat the whole thing.
That's great. So do you have any other tips for individuals?
Well, sometimes they ask me, well, how often should I come? Because they're used to going to chiropractors. They're used to going to people that say, well, you have to come for 10 visits, right? I can do this in 10 visits. Well, I don't know what we can do, but I suggest that they come, a couple of times, within a month. Mm-hmm. And then they can decide for themselves what they need to do, because one, I don't know what their time schedule is. I don't know what their economics are.
Absolutely.
I don't know how long it's going to take for this healing, because we don't know that.
Yeah.
Healing is not linear. I can't say we can go from A to B, because we're going to go to A, and then we're going to go to C, and then we're going to go around in circles. We don't know. Yeah. And I explain that to them, that I have no clue. I don't know what we're going to get into. So it's really up to them what they want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will say, oh, well, I'm going to come, once a week for a couple of months and then see what happens. Or I'm only going to come once a month. And then as we're moving along, they might say, well, I want to come next week, or I want to come in 2 weeks after we've been working for a while.
Yeah.
So they get to decide what they want to do, because it's not up to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And when our new clients come in, we have kind of, we give them the recommendation that at least for the first 3 to 4 sessions, we would love to see them if they can do it once a week. Because what we've found is, especially when someone is coming in new, they've had a whole lifetime to develop these restrictions.
Right.
If I'm only seeing someone once a month, I'm not going to make the change, because they're holding their bracing patterns are going to come back in. So what we want to really do is to start to dive into that. And we found that once a week for the first 3 to 4 weeks will give them a better picture of understanding how this work can help them. And then throughout that, we're starting to readjust and meet them kind of within their needs as well. Because most people typically tend to know within those first 3 to 4 sessions how this work will help them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're pretty amazed, actually.
Yeah. 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 So I'm here with Lil Quandt, and we are talking all things about myofascial release and sharing a lot of our experiences through our own healing. So anyone that's on, if anyone has any questions about myofascial release, health, wellness, pain, anything like that, go ahead and throw them into the comments, and we will go ahead and be answering them throughout the evening. So, well, I know we've talked in the past that throughout your own healing journey, you've really learned how to be more gentle with yourself. And I know this is something that is really difficult and hard for so many of us. So can you share some of the things that have helped you become more gentle with yourself?
Yeah. I usually in my sessions, I was always angry and fighting and struggling and pushing and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
and and that went on for years. It wasn't just months or weeks. It was a couple of years at
I
least.
remember. Yep.
And so one of my therapists said, what if it was easy?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, what? What did she just say? What?
What the hell is she talking about?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I just felt my body relax. And it was easy.
Yeah.
And so it was.
Yeah.
It was just as simple as that. But it just took me a while to get to that point.
Yeah.
And the easier you are on yourself, the easier I think I was fighting those voices in my head.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, well, okay, that voice came up, but you didn't serve me real well in the past, so you're not serving me now, and forget it, take a hike. Yeah. That kind of thing. And it just kept getting easier and easier after that.
I love to hear that. And what you're describing is that control we were talking about.
Right.
And we all love to be in control. And many times that's us fighting. And it's really hard for us to be able to surrender, to be able to just trust, and to be able to kind of go with that flow. For many of us, it's that fear of the unknown.
Right. We don't like changes.
What it's going to be, these uncomfortable feelings. And that holding on to control is so common for so many of our clients. I remember I had a similar experience with you that you did. I was again at a seminar, and I had been fighting and fighting and fighting. And part of my fighting was a avoidance and a disconnect. And I heard myself say, it's okay, you're safe, go in and feel. And it literally was 1 second of just a discomfort. And then it was utter ease and utter peace. And I remember myself laughing uncontrollably and saying, and my partner was like, "What's going on?" Really? I've been fighting that, and I used some choice words. I've been fighting for years for 1 second.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it just takes giving up the fight and what's underneath that fight. And that's another thing as MFR therapists, we're always looking for patterns.
Right.
We are always fighting what's underneath that fight. If we are always crying, what's underneath those tears? And usually there's an emotion that is deeper underneath that we need to tap into in order to take that next step further.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, kind of one of the things for being more gentle with myself, because I've learned this as well over the years, is the first step for me was just awareness. So many times when we are trying to maintain that semblance of control, I kind of tell my clients, it's kind of like you have your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I got to tell you, that is literally exhausting to
It
be
is.
like you got your foot on the brake and the accelerator at the same time. So I sometimes use that visual of what would it feel like to take my foot off both and just kind of go for the ride.
Yeah.
And when I was out at one of my T for T's or a skill enhancement, I can't remember which one, another visual that someone had given me was they said, it's like you're always trying to drive the bus. And driving the bus is that being in control. And so they said, what would happen if you allowed yourself to go to the back of the bus? And so I was like, and so that visual comes in when I feel like I'm trying to make something happen or I'm trying to force something.
Mm-hmm.
I say, what would happen if I go in the back of the bus? And so I see myself going into the back of the bus, and it's like, yeah, let's just go for the flow. Let's just go for the ride. And, when we initially start to let go and surrender, we may only be able to go as far as the seat right behind the bus because we're so used to holding on.
Right.
So make a goal that each time I'm going to go back one more seat and I'm going to go back one more seat and just chip away at it. It doesn't all need to happen at once. And I think that's one of the most important things. It's about chipping away. That way it's not as overwhelming. So there are going to be times that we want to go into that control. So just give ourselves permission to be gentle and go along with the flow. Is there anything else you want to kind of say on that, Lil?
No, you said it perfectly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take baby steps. Yeah.
Absolutely. Otherwise it's that mountain.
Yeah.
Let's take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners about anything that you're grateful for that you've learned through myofascial release? Everything.
Everything. It's like it's a whole new world, and it opened up so many things for me. It changed my attitude with family members. It changed how I perceive things. Sorry, my dog just.
That is okay. I love animals.
It's just saying it changed my perception on life and on things that were happening in the world. It made me feel so grateful for the life I have, because I think many times when we're hurting, we are like we are so tight and so small.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's often said in seminars, we're afraid of our own brilliance.
Yeah.
And as you get into MFR more and you get treated more, you feel brilliant. You start feeling like you have the ability to do many things that you didn't think you had the ability to do in the past.
Absolutely. That's coming into your power.
Yeah, coming into your power. Yeah.
And so many times when we start this work, we don't realize it, but we are stuck in that victim mode.
Right.
And we need someone to help us understand that and help us be able to get out of that, to find what it's like to come in and be empowered.
Right.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. And for me, I love, and one thing I'm grateful for because I've taken it into being a life principle is the main principle of myofascial release of never forcing. Uh,
Right,
and never forcing goes in MFR, but it goes in life. And this to me has been life changing for me. So a lot of times, if I feel like I'm pushing and trying to make something happen, I realize that I'm always meeting up against resistance,
right,
always meeting up against tension. If I feel into my body, I'm always tense, I'm always resistant. And so the moment that I can acknowledge that and see that happening and step back and just kind of stay at that barrier, that's the moment I surrender. And that's the moment that I'm more gentle with myself and the right things come my way and they start to happen. So
right.
I love that about myofascial.
Yeah,
Um,
that's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts when it comes to kind of just healing for individuals?
I think it's very important that you do your own self treatment too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very important that you don't depend on me to just help you with that, but you need to also help yourself with your self treatment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I call that it's so important to be an active participant, both at home with your self care as well as in the treatment. Um,
Hmm.
so you need to be doing the work to come in and be that active participant. Yeah, I love that. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
Mm. That I can think of. But I like that healing challenge. As we're talking, I'm like, I like healing challenge better than healing crisis. I think I'm going to use that.
The healing adventure?
A
Yeah.
healing adventure, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like we're going on something fun.
Right. And it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
some going to be icky, but who cares? Yeah, right?
But you know what?
Yeah.
On the other side, it's magical because there's a
It
lightness to
is.
you. There's
Yes.
joy, there's peace. So it's definitely worth it. Um, and for me, as I said kind of before, authentic healing comes with MFR. MFR truly has changed my life. And one of the things I did not realize when I started this work is I would always see people going through their healing, and I would always say, "Oh, that's great that they're doing that, but I'm fine. I don't have to do that. I'm fine." But what I realized was how disconnected I was,
Right.
how much on autopilot I was living, and I didn't realize it. And I really wasn't, not that I wasn't happy in my life, but I wasn't as joyful. So MFR has really helped me reconnect, and it's really helped me find my joy again in my life, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And what a couple other things that I want to just share with individuals. Myofascial release is a catch-all term that's out there, and not all MFR is the same. So when
Right.
you're looking for an MFR therapist, you really want that person to been trained by the John Barnes method of myofascial release. That's what we're talking about today. So I think that that's really important to find a John Barnes trained therapist.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, healing. It's not just addressing the physical, we're also looking into the mind component. We have to allow ourselves to start to feel these emotions and look into these limiting beliefs that are holding us back so that we can start to fully heal. So I hope you guys our listeners have kind of taken some of that away from our experiences today. And I appreciate you, Lil, for being so open and honest with many of the things that you have gone through, because I hope that it will help others be able to maybe ask questions or to allow themselves to maybe start to tap into that space.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that myofascial has helped me with is things like boundaries, because
Mhm.
when people have been abusive to you when you're younger, you have no boundaries.
Mhm.
They have the control. You have no boundaries, so you don't treat other people effectively with boundaries. So then you learn the boundaries and you learn how to be more compassionate with people and to back off when they need the space.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And Lil, you just said the big B word. That's a hard word for many people.
It is.
Those boundaries, setting boundaries, and being able to pull back and know when someone needs you to step back, those are critical. And so I love that you brought that piece in. Yeah.
Good.
Do you have, we're coming to a close kind of on our evening, but do you have any last thoughts for any of our listeners that you would like to share?
Give yourself the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to live life to the fullest.
Yeah. I love that.
Give yourself the opportunity.
And know that you deserve that
And
opportunity.
you deserve it, right?
Yeah. Everyone deserves that.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's powerful. Well, Lil, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. I have loved this conversation, and I hope that a lot of our listeners will have found it helpful in their own journeys. If you have any, if you're listening to this afterwards and you have any thoughts or comments, please go ahead and share them in the comment section, and we'll get back to you with the answers. But I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that everyone has a good night. Thanks, everyone.